Good morning, one and all. This is the latest webinar coming from the AQR Qualitative Excellence Award. And I'm just here to sort of introduce Ella, who's going to introduce Sarah and Eve. And I will then return to sort of monitor questions and tell you a bit about AQR at the end. So take it away, please, and I will disappear.
Welcome everyone, really excited to be here today to have Eve and Sarah from Magenta Research presenting on their case study that they submitted and were finalists for the AQR Qualitative Excellence Award last year. The award itself is a very prestigious award, and Sarah, in fact, is a former winner of the award as well from previous years. And this year we had a bumper crop of submissions. I think the most submissions we've had in any one year. So it really was a difficult job getting down to the finalists. And we're in for a treat today because Sarah and Eve are both really experienced researchers. Sarah's the founder and managing director of Magenta Research, and Eve works there with her as an AD, and she has a social anthropology background. And I think that is going to become clear as we go through this webinar, because this is a super exciting project. As we were reading through the submissions, this really stood out to us. It's very much been led through the eyes of children, and you can see that our presenters have face paints on today. They are doing it justice with the participant observation, and they're going to talk us through how they did this, and I'm really interested to hear more about it and how they translated the world of children and face paints, and how they delivered that message to their client. And their client was someone called Sal Marshall from Colart, and she is the global marketing director, and I believe we're going to hear from her via video as a part of the presentation as well. And yeah, really excited to hear more. I don't think I need to say much more than that, so I will hand over to Sarah and Eve now to take us through the case study.
Wonderful, thank you, Ella. I'm hoping that all means now you can see my screen and hear me. So do sort of wave or flag if there's any issues. So thank you very much. I think the first thing that we would like to do actually is to ask you to think about very quickly and just share in the chat, what do you think children like best about face painting? What do you think children like best about face painting? If you could just share your thoughts in the chat for us, so that we can just see what you think it is that they like, and then we can kind of come back to that and see. Permission to be messy, getting messy. So, yes, pretending to be something else, picking colours and glitter, lots of glitter, becoming their favourite characters. Yeah, all of these things probably very true, but what I will say is actually we were under very strict instructions from our client that she didn't care what we thought, she didn't care what parents thought, she doesn't care what any adults think. This was to be a project which was focused, what do children think? So we had to find a way of trying to understand what children like about face painting and how helping them to articulate it and to express it. So we're going to take you through this case study. But before we do that, this is our client just introducing the project and telling us a little bit about what she was after. So I'm hoping you can all hear this.
Hi there, my name's Sally Marshall. I'm the Global Brand Director on Snazaroo. And as you know, Snazaroo is a well-known face painting brand. We're very much centered around safe fun and colour. Colour is our reason behind everything we do, which actually becomes quite challenging sometimes, because the colour we look at the world in is through the eyes of an adult. And actually the adults themselves respond very, very positively around the brand to the safe aspect, because with our cosmetic grade face paints, there's a true reason to believe there and a strong engagement level around that aspect. But really, the colour we want to be looking at around the brand is the colour that children bring around it. The colour that the lens they look at the world through actually can bring to life and what the stories are surrounding those. Now, as adults, we have a natural bias. So when we try and put ourselves in the position of the children and understand their world, it can be somewhat challenging. So what we did was commission the research and gave a brief and guidance to Magenta to really get under the skin of children's stories, to really understand where they went when they were face painting, what was in their minds when they were face painting, what were the stories that they experienced during that time. And we got some really great outputs at the other end of the research. So for now, I'm just going to ask Magenta if they tell you a little bit more about that, and I'll speak to you soon.
So the challenge was to understand the world of face painting through the eyes of the child. So just to give you a bit of a summary of what we did, we undertook 8 different play dates, some in the UK, some in the US. I was just kind of filling in Ella before we started. I literally flew to Chicago, had play dates with children and came home, and that was my paid job. So loving my job for this particular project. We did 6 of those where we had play dates and we asked people to bring their friends, and we turned up with pots of face paint and we just kind of watched what happened. And 2 of them were actually without friends. So we just wanted to see how the environment changed. If it was just you at home on your own doing it, if there was a sibling around, that was fine, but it wasn't supposed to be a big friend thing, and just to see how that experience was different. So each session was kind of 3-4 hours, depending on how much time they spent invested in the face paints. But also, we didn't make it compulsory that they had to play with these face paints. We turned up and made it very clear to the adults, if they weren't interested, if they wanted to go off and do something else, that was completely fine, because we wanted to see how much engagement they had with the face paints and what they did with them. So in order to try and capture this, obviously we were there watching, but we also gave the parents and the kids some camera glasses. So cameras with a microphone and a camera in each side. And you can see certainly in the middle, the 3rd and 4th picture, you can see the people wearing these cameras as part of the project. And what that enabled us to do was to get really up close and personal without interfering on that sort of circumstance, that relationship, that bond, that activity. So we really were able to capture it through the eyes of the child, in meaning that we got those minutiae of little emotions, the little facial expressions, the concentration, the sigh, the smirk, the deep looking of concentration, often with kind of tongue sticking out the side as they're kind of concentrating, and getting that real richness of those tiny little details to see what was going on up close and personal. We also then did do a quantitative survey with households with children between the ages of 3 and 9. This was an under 10 project specifically. So within the process of face painting, there are significant emotional responses that formulate the whole child's experience. And some of them will experience some of these emotions slowly, quickly. They'll experience multitude of them, some of them or not, or others or not. So just to give you some examples of the kind of emotions that people went through. The first one really was about forbidden joy, because it's, as one of you said in the chat, it's that kind of you're not normally allowed to do something like this. So painting on your skin, that's just not normally something you do. It's normally restricted and controlled and in a very kind of safe environment. This had a lot more creativity and free flow. So that forbidden joy that people were allowed to experience.
Never-ending anticipation is another sort of key insight, key finding, key emotion that the children experience. So whilst we often think about face painting as restricted to faces, ultimately children can paint their entire bodies if they want to. So there's this excitement when they realise that actually their entire body provides a blank canvas. So their excitement can evolve as they move perhaps from their face to their hand, to their leg, to their feet, or indeed their friends as they're painting them.
Then we saw this kind of caution versus excitement. So you had some of the kids who literally jumped in straight away, grabbed paintbrushes, just went for it, and were really excited. And then you had others that kind of were a few meters apart, watching, not really sure that they wanted to be involved, weren't really sure what was happening, certainly didn't want to be putting any paint on. But slowly, as they watched their friends or their siblings doing it, they would build up a bit of curiosity and get a bit closer to the table, and then a bit closer. And I absolutely had one child who refused point blank that they weren't going to take part. There were tears, there were tantrums, and then as the session went on, by the end of the session, she'd painted her entire face black and was loving it. So it just was that caution of her kind of taking a little bit more of a slower approach.
And this general sense of growing in confidence that we saw a few times was a really wonderful thing to see. So children gained reassurance and also inspiration and ideas from watching others, their friends, their siblings, their parents or carers, and then having the opportunity to have a go themselves as well really helped develop sort of this feeling of confidence and enthusiasm in taking part. And we found that really this is what makes face painting at home a perfect group activity, the interaction with each other.
Because of the ability to be creative and just go for it, children experienced a real sense of pride and satisfaction. They would kind of do one thing on their hand and it would be like, look what I've done, look, and wanting to show that one thing before they quickly then moved on to the next. And it's this real creation of their handiwork that they were loving as they went through the process.
And one that was particularly beautiful to see was this intense bonding experience that we saw so frequently. When you think about face painting and painting someone else's face, it really demands undiluted focus, but also trust. So we saw parents, really intimately close to their children's faces, their children having completely undivided attention as well, looking into each other's eyes and really witnessing that intense moment where it felt very, very special. So the idea that face painting at home actually can be quite an intimate occasion for quality time together.
We also saw this sensory stimulation. So there's a lot going on when you're face painting at home. There's a physical proximity to somebody that's very close to you, probably leaning on you a little bit as they're doing a bit of their painting, touching you. It's a very tactile activity. There's a lot of textures going on, the feeling of the wet paint on your skin, the feeling of the paint on your skin as it dries. It's a very sensitive sensory experience that's quite unique to face painting.
Empowered expression as well. So face painting at home really puts children in control, able to express their individuality. It is partly getting messy and having fun in that way, but also it's about choosing how to express themselves in where they paint, what colors they use, and they have total freedom and control to create whatever and whoever they want.
And finally, there's just this kind of general feeling of enjoying the process. It's not really about the end goal. It's not, look at me, I'm a cat, and now I'm going to stay a cat for the rest of the day. It was, look at me, I'm a cat, and now I'm going to wipe that off and become something else. This continual affirmation that you would get from somebody else where they see what you've done and they're like, oh, that looks really cool, I'm going to do that too. And then that kind of real building of confidence and self-esteem that you get for this kind of real desirability for the activity that we haven't seen through other activities that kids do at home. And that was part of the joy of this project, was to understand how face painting at home could fit within the wider sort of range of other activities that kids are doing. So I think, as you kind of heard, we were really forced to bring this to life through the eyes of the child. And I think what we're going to do now is just take you through some of these in a little bit more detail and share with you the stories that we told to bring these insights to life for the client. So we're going to go back to that first one we had, which was forbidden joy, this kind of ability to do something that kids are not normally allowed to do. So if you think about kind of past experience of face painting and face painting as it's currently understood and experienced, it's very much about being at a party, perhaps being sat down in the corner, being told to be quiet, being told to behave, to sit still. And it's something that is done to you. And you just sit there as a very passive part of this activity. But face painting at home is a completely different experience because the kids have the freedom to paint themselves without any restrictions. They can paint anywhere, and you see them slowly emerging from this. I'm thinking of face painting is for the face, to slowly thinking differently. And as Eve kind of explained, like suddenly thinking, well, I can paint on my hand, I can paint on my feet, I can paint on my arm. And you can see as they're slowly evolving this canvas that is never ending. It's completely different to any other activity. If you think about other painting activities, they're told to stick to the piece of paper, don't move anything off the table. It's a very restricted activity, whereas face painting at home creates a freedom that they don't get with other activities. It's the face painting at home that gives them a world of play that's previously kind of been told that they're prohibited from doing. And it's accessing this forbidden world and this combination of freedom that really contributes to a sense of joy. So in order to try and understand this, I'm going to tell you the story of one of the girls that I met. She said to me, through her words, she was saying, you know, when I was told we were going to be face painting at home, I was really excited, but I also wasn't really sure what to expect. I've never really face painted at home before, so I'm a little bit nervous, but I'm intrigued. What's going to happen? I'm looking forward to it, but what's going to happen? Because we've not done it at home. Mum had said she's expecting the face painting to be really messy, and she was surprised that the paints weren't quite as liquidy. And once she saw me playing nicely, she left me to it. She must really trust me. This has made the experience even more thrilling because Mum's now not watching over me and telling me off, and I can paint whatever I like. So I began by painting a cat on my face, and it feels a little bit naughty, like I'm being a bit mischievous and I'm breaking the rules because I'm not normally allowed to draw on myself. But I can feel the paint on my skin. It's wet to begin with, a little bit tingly on my spine, but not in a bad way. It just feels a bit funny. It's more exciting than normal painting, and it feels really good. I like the funny feeling of the paint on my skin, and look at what a good job I've done. Because I've done such a good job, Mum's let me paint her face, and then I painted cat paws on my palms, which I'm absolutely delighted with how they look. Because when I paint on my hand, it looks like an animal print because you've got the lines of the skin. It's so cool. I'm enjoying being able to paint whatever, whenever, and I don't normally have that freedom. Painting's normally under supervision, very controlled, but I want to do more of this while I'm allowed. I can do whatever I want, turn myself into something, or just do different designs. This freedom brings me joy, and it's a bit buzzy. I like doing something that I'm not normally allowed to do, and this is better. This is better than the face painting that I'm used to. So when we think about what this looks like from the children's perspective, you really see that intense focus. You see a mindfulness and a presence in the children when they're doing face painting that you don't see with other activities. And you see them kind of exploring their body as canvases and quickly moving from one thing to the next. It's not an end process. It's an evolution that they just keep moving. And we heard lots of gasps of excitement, lots of oohs and ahs, and next I'm going to paint this, and I know what I'm going to do, and now I'm going to go on my arm. So this very much evolution and excitement of this forbidden joy that they're suddenly discovering as they're going through. So we just want to bring this to life with some of our children.
100%, yeah. Once you get into it. On the 10 block of whatever. But it's like, and with interest rates are good. Why? Even if we like put, you know, oh my god, this is like, yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful, Evie. You guys are going to be so colourful when we go for lunch later.
Can you paint my nails? With green? Yeah. Yep. You mean your claws?
Them because they just did because one of them was off here.
So, the front hallway and the floor in the powder room would be the only different floors.
Excited. This time I'm gonna do a blue.
Okay.
I'm gonna do it here.
Beginning.
It's just like in the beginning, I'm just like, what do I do? What do I do? But now I'm just like, okay. My hand.
Okay, what do you like about your hand?
Because it has like these little because if you like paint over it, it has like the little like lines, and then it looks like the animal like has like things like.
So thinking about never-ending anticipation again. So when you think about face painting, perhaps using a bit of adult interpretation, you might be thinking that the highlight, the sort of the end moment of the face painting experience is the character on the face, becoming your favorite character, or having the design done and finished. But it's actually really not what we found. So yes, children do experience the initial build of excitement and anticipation when they're completing the first look. But having completed that look, that is not the end of the activity. That actually really almost starts it off. Or at least starts it off again. That completed look is the beginning of a prolonged and continual face painting process. It's where children then begin to view their bodies, their own as well as others, as blank canvases and move on to painting hands, feet, arms and leg. The very first play date I actually went on, the child decided that the character that they had become once they'd painted, or their mum had painted their face, was the owner of a face painting shop. And as the owner of a face painting shop, he needed customers. So immediately in with the participant observation, it's a joy to say that that was my job, and using, the 3 years of a social anthropology degree, I think, to expert use, being very, very happily face painted. So some children, their bodies are used to develop their character. So as we saw in the video there, drawing sort of claws, animal pads to their hands, or we had some children drawing claws to match the tiger on their face. For others, exploring their body, it's about adding a design, a swirl on the arm, a pattern on the leg, but really whatever is drawn or however the body used, we saw this continual excitement, continual cycle of excitement and anticipation as they explore different areas and explore different ideas to paint once an initial look is finished. So in contrast to a lot of the excitement and energy that we found in the play dates, we also found this sort of tranquility and soothing aspect of face painting at home. When you think about it, unlike a lot of activities that kids are doing at home, face painting really demands that you sit still and remain calm, at least whilst you're being painted, or if you're the one painting, say, a friend or your parent. We found often when we arrived, it was complete chaos. The play dates were in full swing. There was madness, children running everywhere. Just very, very high energy. And once we got the face painting kit out, popped it on the table, this calm sort of descended onto the play date, as you'll see upcoming in some of the clips. So children just then immediately sort of sat down and really focused, thinking about the design they wanted, the character they wanted, flicking through the book, looking at the different paint colours, really deciding how they wanted their face painted. So this sense of calm, descends on even, really younger children, and even the most energetic children, as they focus on the sensation of their faces or hands being painted. So we found that the calming benefits also extended when the children switched roles and became the painters themselves. So as their confidence grew, they wanted to be the ones with the paintbrushes and sponges in their hands, but they were able to maintain a real sense of focus doing this. So this, their ability to concentrate on the specific task, felt very different to colouring and sort of normal painting, which, we did see as part of their playdates as well, really only held their attention for short periods of time. In complete contrast, face painting is this all-encompassing activity that we felt almost generated this sense of mindfulness during the process. So thinking about storytelling, bringing that to life for our client and what that really felt like as a child in this moment. So I was being a fire engine, running really fast and making needle noises. But when Mummy said we were about to start face painting, I quickly sat down at the table really quietly. I couldn't wait to do it, and I didn't want to distract Mummy, so I concentrated really hard on being good and still, even though I was so excited. Mummy covered my face in purple paint. At first, it was a bit tickly, but it was actually relaxing. Normally, I get told off for not sitting still, but I felt very content sitting in the chair at the table. When Mummy first started painting my face, I was thinking about fire engines and tigers and dinosaurs. But then inside my head went quiet, and all I was thinking about was Mummy painting my face. It felt soft and nice and relaxing. It almost made me feel a bit sleepy. After I had my face painted, I was playing on the trampoline with my brother and friends. I hurt my toe and it was really sore. When I came back inside, I was crying. Mummy let me paint her hand. I made a rainbow with lots of different colours, and I mixed some of the colours myself. I used the brushes to make lots of stripes. One, and then another one, and then another one. And I forgot all about my toe hurting until Mummy asked me if I was okay. I was so focused on painting that I completely forgot about everything else. So we saw this across different playdates, this sense of calm and stillness and focus and mindfulness. What we saw were things like sitting quietly and calmly, or attempting to, this isn't an easy feat when getting ready for the face painting. We saw such intense focus on the face painting. You can see in the image the tongue poking out, in intense concentration. And that's when being painted and also painting themselves, it is completely captivating their attention, their thought process. There is nothing else going on when the face painting is happening apart from the face painting. And we saw children really resisting the distraction of their siblings, their friends, their toys, and just that capability and ability to focus on the activity at hand completely. And what it sounded like, well, peace and quiet in contrast to an otherwise very chaotic play dates in some cases. We had children say things like, "Oh, tickles, oh, that feels so good." Lots of oohs and ahs, as well as, they're completely focused and have their attention completely captivated.
And then we're getting the face painting kits out. Okay. And it's really, the whole point of the research is to through the eyes of children. So it's just their response, their reaction, what do they want, what excites them, what they are.
You're going to have your face painted? Yeah! You're going face painted? Do you want your face painted, Stanley? No. Max? Oh. Max? Come on, Charlie, in here.
What are you thinking, Charlie?
I'm thinking it's brilliant.
Oh.
You think Mummy's brilliant at doing face painting?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, this actually looks like a play, wasn't it? I'll just see. Look.
Wow.
If I put it backwards, it goes zooming and then it takes off. I might actually pretend this is a plane. Plane took off. This is my seat. As still as I can. Right.
So hopefully you can see how kind of the impact of face painting at home is a really different activity to a lot of the other activities that kids do. And I know that a lot of parents kind of rushing out to buy face paints now in the hope that it kind of calms children down at home. But now we just wanted to kind of share with you really what the impact has been and just bring you back to our client about how she's used the insights.
Hi, I just wanted to come back and share my perspective on how valuable the insights and storytelling was and how we've used it both currently and also going forward in the future. Now, the outputs of the research were critical in terms of us as a brand team being able to take our key stakeholders through the journey. For many stakeholders, it's quite difficult for them to put themselves in the child's circumstance, perspective, and in their world. I mean, a child's world is happy chaos and colourful and loud and robust. For many parents or grandparents, that might not be too big a jump, but for others that aren't necessarily as experienced with children and the world of children, then actually it can be quite a leap for them. So actually, no matter our stakeholders' backgrounds, no matter our stakeholders' countries and cultures, what was great for us was to be able to have one set of insights, one story that built around those insights, and to be able to bring the story of the child in the face painting experience to life. Now, that's helped us to have much richer conversations. And we've used the storytelling model to build the outputs from the research into our brand positioning, into our strategy. Through that validation and fine-tuning of the position and the strategy, we've developed next year's brand plans and the activations around it. And it all led us through from the story that came through from the work. In some areas, this has been a really big shift, and in others, more of a tweak. But what's been great is having that consistent storytelling to be able to take everybody on the same journey, to visualize it and bring it to life for them. And without it, I think it would have been a real struggle. So we now have solid plans in place and strong comms campaigns, strong innovation funnels. And actually from here, I am really happy in terms of the direction the brand is going. And I think we wouldn't be in such a solid place without the work that we did. Thank you.
And that brings you to the end of what we were going to share, but we're very much open to questions from anybody.
One reflection from me is you didn't mention your training in acting with the monologues that you delivered there. From the children's perspectives, I really enjoyed how much you were engaging us as an audience with those amazing performances.
What did you take from it that you can use in other projects, research projects, if anything?
We learned so much, I think, along the way, really being forced to see it through the eyes of and not our interpretation. So that could be children, but it is also your participants, isn't it, that you're trying to understand in any category, and actually not putting your interpretation on it. You know, when we put together the proposal for this particular project, you know, we hypothesized that the big reveal would be the moment, you know, when you've done your character and you've done your craft and you look in the mirror, that was going to be the moment of joy, etc. And we couldn't have been more wrong. And just actually taking that step back and allowing your participants their language. We're doing a lot of work on language and discourse analysis internally at the moment, and using the language that participants are using and listening to the tones and what they're saying and what they're not saying, and using that as your interpretation rather than your own perspective, I think is definitely something we've dialed up since doing this project.
There is a question up there which says, great presentation. Were there any parts of the study that didn't go to plan, given that it was with children? And if so, how did you navigate them?
I mean, did anything go to plan? I mean, I think is probably would be smoother to answer. You sort of don't. The plan is almost not to have a plan for the play dates. I mean, completely expect the unexpected. Know and have those upfront conversations with the client that we could leave with nothing from this play date. If the child doesn't want to engage, if they're not interested in the face paints, that's a real risk, and that could happen. We were lucky that didn't happen, but that does feel, you know, perhaps more luck, more luck than skill or judgment.
We were very lucky that our client, I think we said it several times and put it in writing, the fear that we could come away with nothing if we don't speak to adults. So we kind of covered ourselves. We also then did one play date, stopped, checked in, shared the findings, did one play date, stopped, checked. So before, those were the ones in the UK that we were able to kind of do in a little bit more slower process, so that before I went out to the US and kind of did 4 in a row, we knew it was going to be a process that we were happy with. So we did take it slow to start off with, to make sure our client understood what not speaking to any adults might bring. So it was kind of, we were afforded that luxury and a client willing to take those risks.
She also wanted to watch a lot of the footage. I think she watched all the footage actually herself as well, which is incredibly impressive. But that did mean she needed to sit through half an hour of a child answering your bum to every conceivable question that you could think of to me. So your bum. How do you feel about this? Your bum. So you just sort of go with it, don't you?
Could have been worse.
It could have been a lot worse, to be honest. I mean, I've had ruder participants. You know, he was only 7.
Another question up there which says, you mentioned, I think, that you did a survey at the end, and apologies if I misunderstood, but if so, what things did you take into quant?
Yeah, it was a good question actually. The survey was almost a very separate part of the project, just looking at kind of household penetration in the UK and the US. So they were almost like sort of separate projects, just linked by the product itself. So there wasn't, unusually, there wasn't the sort of the qual flowing into quant that is fairly common.
Were there any surprises in terms of what you found through having done this that you can share?
Yeah, I mean, definitely my sort of expectation was that kids want their face painted into, you know, a character, an animal, a superhero, that kind of thing, and that they would then be like, okay, I'm done, and maybe they would play as that character for a bit and then it would be over. So that was the biggest sort of challenge, or, you know, misconception or adult interpretation that I'd taken in with me, because we just didn't see that really ever. I think I had one child that once she was painted as a cat, she pretended to be a cat for a bit and like got a bit of milk and licked the milk out of the bowl. But that was one child and on one play date. Everyone else, it was sort of as soon as I've had my face painted, oh my God, okay, this is just the start. Right, I'm going to have a go now. I'm going to grab the brush. Like, I'm going to paint your face. Mummy, can I do your face? Oh my gosh, this is so exciting. Like, oh, can I do my feet? Can I take my socks off and can I do my feet? Like, it was really just, honestly, the first lot of face painting was the start of
And
the
nothing had to
process.
match. You just because you've started with a cat doesn't mean you have paws on your feet. It just was anything and everything. And the more they got the glitter out and the more they discovered rainbows, and the more, the bigger the better, the more colourful. Nothing has to match. It was just the process that they loved.
How did you decide how many interviews to do so that it felt robust? And was there a big debate?
Well, there was a budget restriction to start off with, which we went in with the proposal at double the budget. They then found the money to do it because of what we'd suggested needed to be done. And we didn't think that they could do it properly on the budget that they had. So it was really about how many we could do within the budget that felt like we were going to get enough insight, which is why play dates were quite good, because we recruited one child. They were asked to bring 2 children to their play date. So we expected 3. Often we would get 6 or more because siblings would come and mum and dad would be joining in, or there'd be other people coming too. So it was more, it became a bigger gathering. Or parents would be sat over there while you're doing stuff with the kids. And so it was really about how many we felt we needed to do to make sure we could get enough insight, and being budget restricted. It was budget restricted, as they always are, but being there for 3 or 4 hours, and seeing the insights evolve, it was quite clear to us what we were seeing. I mean, I don't think there would have been any benefit in doing more, more of the same. It would have reconfirmed perhaps what we were seeing. But no, it was really just a kind of, what did we think was the minimum we needed to do to feel comfortable that we were going to get enough.
Sorry if you said this, Sarah, but what did you do? What was
we did 8 in-home visits. So there were 6 play dates, and then 2 were just the children in the house. So we didn't make a friendship thing of it. It was supposed to be to see whether a solo activity was the same experience as when you've got all your mates around and it's hyper exciting. But that solo experience did often involve a sibling, or the sibling would kind of come halfway through and go, what's going on? Can I have a go? So it was just to see. So it was 8 play dates or 8 in-home sessions in total. Each one of 3 to 4 hours long.
So is that 4 in the UK, 4 in the US?
Yeah.
Can you share any learnings around how you videoed such dynamic sessions? Did you use several cameras, etc.? Was it sufficient?
So we had, as modelled by Eve, these glasses which have got a microphone and a camera. And these are what we had, I think, 3 sets, 2 or 3 sets per session. They're very temperamental, so do not rely on them in terms of, we just don't know what you're going to get. So you need a backup plan. That's the first thing. But getting the parents and the children to wear those whilst they were doing the painting captured the really lovely up close and personal little things. We also had a GoPro equipped. Do we have 2 per household that we just set up on one of those flexi tripods at either end of the room, just to see what we would capture from the bigger perspective, to make sure we had a backup plan. And then the moderator clearly had their phone to hand and was snapping away a thing. So it was about getting as much footage as we can to make sure we came away with something, because you're just not sure what you're going to get. And then having to trawl through it. There's your learning. How many hours of footage you have to trawl through. Because if you think each one was 3 to 4 hours and we had 3 or 4 cameras going, it's a lot of work to trawl through it.
Any more questions from anybody? Doesn't look like it. If not, I'm going to go out and buy some face paints, because it sounds like a hell of a lot of fun. Thank you both very much.